and Nico. Can we give them a loud round of applause, ladies and gentlemen?
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. Wasn't that a great lunch? It was, right? So, first of all, can we put our hands together and say a big thank you to the KSI team? All right, I think they did a marvelous job. Thank you. Now, why is this session so important? Firstly, women are very good at counting money, keeping money, and making sure that you know how to grow your wealth. So I am actually very excited to be moderating this panel. I've promised the panel after me that although we started late, we are going to end on time. So what I'm going to do requires very little from all of you. We have fantastic panelists here. I'm not going to read their CVs. I felt that they do wonders in having profiled themselves. So what I'm going to do is first round, we're going to do a quick Robin round. Every one of these ladies will do a quick introduction. And what they're going to do is they're going to set, all right, on stage how long they have been in the finance and banking sector. And you will be shocked. They all look wonderfully young. But the years of experience behind everything that they do give meaning to the word pivoting. I think for many of them, they actually pivoted their roles within the whole finance sector, and they are very driven about driving for financial inclusion. And I think that's the reason why we have panel 3 after lunch. Financial sector derives a lot of value for an economy. About close to 25% of the finance sector contributes to GDP in 10 ASEAN countries. It's almost uniform. They are also a great contributor in terms of job creation. And I just returned from WEF in January. There are 2 big items that's keeping all leaders awake. The future of jobs is changing. And we are going to find that green jobs, care jobs, and digital inclusion jobs are hitting the top of the line when it comes to taking the attention of political leaders, corporate leaders, and social enterprises. So without further ado, I'm going to go in the order, all right, where I actually am very privileged to have 2 women leaders from the government sector related to the government sector in Malaysia. So I'm going to start with Noor. And Noor has an amazing title, all right, Chief Operating Officer of MAVCAP. By the way, she's got 300,000 followers. I've just upped the number for her, all right, from 30,000 to 300. All yours, no?
Thank you, Professor. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. So my name is Noor Ismail. I am today representing the largest venture capital in Malaysia. We have been in the industry for the past 22 years. We are fully funded by Ministry of Finance. So thus, I actually rushed from Putrajaya. I had to say hi to them given they are the funders. We have been supporting, I just came back from London actually to serve the country. I have high hopes in the country, regardless what people say. We see potential, huge potential, especially women entrepreneurs. If I may say a little bit, 63% perform better, 35% women-founded company give higher return, but only 1% of VC funding of the country went to female-funded companies. Yes. Why? Because we are underrepresentation, unconscious bias. VC industry is a man industry, so here I am today hoping to champion for all of you and more money coming in, hopefully.
Very good. Thank you very much, And I love it that you are actually so passionate, even with 24 years in the corporate, all right, sector. I'm going to move the mic over to Jasmine. A very warm welcome all the way from Myanmar. Jess.
Thank you so much, Annie.
Self-introduction.
Thank you. Very good afternoon to ladies and gentlemen, and I'm First of all, I'm very appreciative and thank you for having me here, and grateful to spend time with all the grateful mothers and of course very good women leaders here in this room on a great Mother Day. As Annie has mentioned, I travel all the way from Myanmar, and my Burmese name is Thazin Aung. So, but people call me Jasmine. Many know me as Jasmine, and I have worked with the in my career life. I'm in a professional career professional partners, and also I am the Pali entrepreneur as well. So I worked with the PricewaterhouseCoopers for about 11 and a half years, and I set up Myanmar PricewaterhouseCoopers firms in Myanmar in 2012, and I mostly my background basically is corporate finance and banking and capital markets. Being that after 11 and a half years with PwC, and after my partnership, I started joining this AR Financial Group for as bankers. So my journey of the banker started in 2016. So and where we and because being a bank, working with a bank, and with my background in the PwC, I have a chance to interact with many women entrepreneurs, many women businesses, and which actually drive me to do more and being part of this financial group, and how we can actually enhance and encourage and leverage them, leverage using the bank or our institutions for the women businesses to enhance to the another levels. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you, Jasmine. Great to have you here. And I know we will be hearing stories about how, in spite of the coup taking place, banks like Aya Bank is actually making funding available to women and children in spite of the challenging times. Next but not least is Miss Yushida Husin. And last night at dinner, I was so happy to hear my mother's from Batu Pahat, my daddy's from Malacca. So Malaysia is homecoming for me in many ways. Yoshida is from the same kampung as my mama. All right, so Yoshida, all
Thank
yours.
you. Thank you, Professor Annie. And of course to the organizers for inviting me over. Indeed, it is a great pleasure to join this summit. So a little bit of introduction of myself. I started my career in a management consulting firm, have always been within technology-driven transformation program, system implementation, after which then I made a pit stop at starting up Takaful, Islamic insurance outfit. So that is where I think I was also involved in building agencies force, of which then we see women participation within the agency force and how they built a business along this line. Then I moved on to my current position, which is with Credit Guarantee Corporation, also basically in the space of technology and operations. So again, what attracted me to CGC is as a purpose-driven organization. You know, women, even as a human being in general, we go through different life stages. And for me, at this juncture in my life, I do feel that a purpose-driven company is something that resonates well with me. And certainly at CGC, when they crafted out CGC Digital to embark into the digital space, it's a separate entity altogether. So I do see opportunity in terms of access to financing, certainly on the other side in terms of financial inclusion, and working with different digital DNA partners to create better outreach for this segment. Yes.
Very good. You know, and I do hope the audience is listening intently, because I might give you a quiz and then you'll be asked, what have you just heard? All right. So please give us your attention, not just because of the quiz. All right. Thank you. Daphne, your turn.
Yes, hi everyone. So first of all, I'm very happy to be here. So thanks to the organizers and Prof. Aniko. For myself, in the banking space, have been in the banking space for about 8 years prior to starting my own technology company. So the background was in structured commodities and trade finance. Right now, running a tech company, HQ based out of Singapore, but we do have a Sideram Berhad in Malaysia as well, and right now servicing mainly banking and financial services sector. So what we do is a lot of digitalization types of productivity apps. For example, streamlining of KYC and onboarding workflows for the various departments. So very happy to be here today. Yeah.
And Daphne took the day trip here. All right, she came in by the early flight, and this is so important for her. And Daphne, if I may ask, when you started the fintech company, roughly how old are you? Because earlier we actually have someone from a panel mentioned that, and I know that is not allowed to say, but in the 40s that they started their own enterprise. And Winnie mentioned that very loudly. So you pivoted, all right, from banking.
Yes. Let me come backwards. So this year, I'm very transparent. This year, I'm 42, minus 5 years. What is that? Yeah, 37, 36, 37. Yeah.
So we also wanted to let people know women are able to recreate the future, taking on very different pathways. And it's not just the teens that are in fintech. All right, and I'm very excited that we actually have a lot of women in this room who are actually thinking of recreating their own pathway because we live longer and therefore we have a longer runway to make a difference. And last but not least, Jim Ling.
Okay.
Congratulations on the award.
Thank you. I see a lot of familiar faces on the floor, so I don't think I'm going to do this long-winded introduction. Just enough to say that I managed the Hong Leong Investment Bank for the last 14 years, banker for more than 30 years, and likely to retire as a banker as well. I don't think I can switch like Daphne, go into the new economy, but still I think that's also a role to play for us to assist, especially today we are on this Women's Summit topic that we can help women in business, especially looking into accessibility to financing, to the capital markets, and really the agenda today is really to help women be more involved in the business side and the entrepreneurship drive. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, so this whole morning until now, we've all heard the aspirations. That's my first A. All right, and Cynthia says I use acronym. So the first A is we all aspire to build a better world, a broader world, to make a difference. And with the aspiration, this whole day's event is to do alignment. We've all aligned to a common goal. And I think Yushida mentioned to have purpose is why we are all here today. So this panel and the following panel is what I call action, the third A. Because everything that we are aspiring and having alignment towards must be captured by real action. So without particular order again, maybe each of my wonderful panelists here could share some of the actions that they've already put in place to ensure that women have access to capital or talent or even the ecosystem of building a community that they are not alone. So I'm going to start with you, Noor. All right, with what you're doing in MAVCAP, how have you been enabling many of the women in Malaysia?
That's actually an interesting question.
And SMEs as well.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. Last month was the International Women's Day. So I realized when I came back, the problem with us women is the lack of representation. So I took up about 15 engagements just to make sure that our voice is heard. So I would love you guys to take out your handphone and follow our Instagram because we provide free working space with legal advice every Friday. You can actually use our space for event. You can use the space for meetings. And then we do have what we call Ilham MAVCAP, Ilham Ideas, that we open to public to come and actually sit down and engage. We need the conversation. We need to create the conversation. We personally have championing ESG under us, especially the DI, diversity, inclusivity, and equality. We are really championing women entrepreneurship, and we realize there's a huge gap in VC funding to the women-founded company. So we are actually going to introduce the pitching session just for women, and we are actually collaborating with few partners hoping that we can actually speed fast. Out of, for example, 14 startups that will come to us, usually you actually have one out of 14 women-funded company. So the problem is we are perfectionists. Like for men, research says 60% ready, they will go out. So they actually have time for feedback. We will wait 120%, we're still not able to go out. So this is the gap. We don't have the numbers. We are still trying to, set out a team to find what exactly going on in the VC industry in Malaysia. But clearly, it's unconscious bias because the VC industry is a men's industry. So when they interview or they come and pitch, you just go to a person that you're familiar with, right? But that's unconscious bias. It's by Harvard Review. So you can't run away from that. So I keep on saying that, ladies, go out and speak out and champion the minority. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. So last night you were also mentioning to me, that you are like the spring equivalent in Singapore.
Yeah. Enterprise Singapore, Spring
Correct.
Singapore. Yeah.
But you do more than that, because at MAVCAP you actually give seed capital all the way until Series B.
Currently, our mandate is actually pre-growth to Series B. You have to be VC ready, so at least you have to have a revenue. If ideation or still, you don't have like revenue just yet, there's actually two agencies that you can approach. One, Cradle, and second is MDEC. They provide grants. Yeah, and they're actually quite fast. So when you're ready, when you're VC ready, we will take up from there. Yeah, yeah.
Very nice. So in a way, preparing them for the VC market and
Yes.
ensuring that they have the
And
right level.
I need more women, ladies.
And men, all right? So if you run a VC fund, please do come up to her, all right? Noor will be more than happy. And then coaching the women entrepreneurs who come to you.
Yes, we're not about to fight. We are about to collaborate with the men.
Thank you very much. Nice. Thanks, Noor. Jasmine, so you were right there in Myanmar when the coup happened. Yeah? Can you kind of tell us what were some of the things that Ayah Bank did to try and make sure that women, children do get sustainability and some kind of livelihood?
Thank you so much. I think Myanmar is very famous in the ASEAN for being many things happens, and the environment that we operate, we do have limitations and challenges. But when we actually, after the 3 years of COVID, and then for the sake of my returning home, I will not speak as a coup. I will say that some country political situations. So there are many small and medium enterprises, businesses very much impacted because of these 4 years, and we are struggling. And also, which includes, of course, women's businesses as well. And how we actually come out for that, for Ayah Bank, we are the second largest bank in the country. And we have about 265 branches across the country. And we have 6,000 plus. And this 6,000 plus also we have women, 55% represents the firm from the 6,000, probably represent. And even if you look at the senior management team, women represent about 55% plus as well. So in our bank, majority are women, very much women dominant. So with coming that, what we do was we found that for the small and medium enterprise SMEs and plus women-led organizations, women-led enterprises, the funding is very fundamental and basic things that they need. But when we see actually, financing is not just, it's not only options for us. So we want to go beyond banking. What we can do for them, what kind of solution we can give them for their products, for their business to grow, and for their product to more explore, not just within the country, to go overseas. What can they do to improve of their product and services? So what we do was we have solutions to provide to them. Financing is just one part of it, and giving them and how well they can manage the finances by. So when we actually, the bank deal with our customer, because we have about 3.5 million customers, and we can only be reached out with that much. So what we do is we proudly work with all the women associations in Myanmar. So Myanmar Women Enterprise Associations, we work with UMSCCI, Myanmar Women Chambers Commerce, and there are three key women associations who work with us. They have hundreds of 500 over women entrepreneurs being registered, and through them, we give them financings. We also give them a lot of solutions like literatures or like financing literatures, how they could maintain. And last but not the least, what we do was bringing them into the digital journey. So Myanmar, one thing benefited is that people may see that, or because of all the struggle and challenges, I was sharing last night as well, what can we break through? So digital was one of the breakthrough that we achieved. And digital thing has been never stopped in Myanmar throughout these 5 years. And we did, and we keep continuing it, the bank keep investing in it, and at the same time, we bring them into the digital. So we're bringing them into our, very fundamental, like, settling, bringing them into the wallet, because we also have ERP wallet and banking channel, and we explain them why this is important for them to bring the digital. So with the digitally bring it in, you start to recognize all your transactions and transparency you can address, and that can actually enhance their credit portfolio with the banks. So we do not need to go and ask you, your credit profile is being built inside the bank. And when you need the funding more, when you are looking at your growth, so we do that, right? So that's how we actually educate them, we bring them. So in Myanmar, we need a lot of hand-holding exercise for all the women entrepreneurs. So especially when we work with this in Myanmar, last week, we were working with them for All Made in Myanmar, which is also partly funded by the USAID. And because we work with the USAID for more than 5 years now, so they bring out all the goods and services that, we connect them to the globally. And also for me, I had the corporate banking, but it doesn't stop there, because my corporate banking from my all big corporate, being able to connect the whole supply chain, supplier, customer. So being connecting, so we focusing on the SME. We bring this SME to be connected with all our key portfolio or supply chains, or big corporates, so that they will have a chance to supply. And like, for example, we have a very famous City Mart Holding in Myanmar, which is a retail chain. So we have all the SME suppliers, we connect to them on the platform, so that, we can do invoice financing for them. And we can also do, their product to be, consignment in this, retail store as well. So that's what we do for the financing a woman. And we've been, this year, actually, after coup, because of all these challenges, many businesses have been shut down, small businesses. So we want them to bring back, and, we don't want them to stop. So it has been very fruitful for me, I would say. But and also that being in this challenging environment, women I was saying that all women are very, very resilient, and also they have the grit of the, wanted to turn it around regardless of whatever limitations that we face. We all meet regularly, and we all talk about what are the difficulties, and we all share, for those who has and for those who do not have. So that was how the communities that we've been built up there. So we will continue to do that. And I hope that all our women entrepreneurs in Myanmar and from across the country, we will be able to strike through, and we will be able to continue to strike through and being out to the global soon. Thank you.
Very good. So we hear very clearly, from crisis comes opportunities, and resilience is something that every woman knows, because you have so many ups and downs in life. And the other thing that, Jasmine clearly articulated is, not all credit information need to come from sources which are just dependent on a certain income, having a very structured approach. Unstructured data can actually allow you to have access to credit. And so that's where I come to you, right, Yushida? In your 50th anniversary of CGC, you've all decided that you need to incorporate CGTC digital. So can you tell the audience, why does a credit guarantee corporation arm all right, in Malaysia, with a whole consortium of banks, decided that they have to also have a digital arm. And what is that arm doing to bring about greater financial inclusion for both women and SMEs?
Thank you. Okay, so for us at Credit Guarantee Corporation, what we do is it's an establishment owned 78% by the Central Bank of Malaysia, Bank Negara Malaysia, while the rest is with the commercial banks. So in terms of specifically, when we look at, we provide guarantee to support credit and access to financing for MSMEs back to back with the banks. So hence, this is the situation when we feel that there's a need for us to become the catalyst. So what we do is we provide the financing as well directly to women. In fact, we did that a couple of years back, and the data basically showed that women in general, in terms of running business, they are pretty much constrained to the household. So I think this is also similar to what was mentioned by Dato' Azlin just now. So whatever they know is within the limitations of the household, because of the fact they are the primary caregiver, caretaker. So hence they don't know what they don't know. So I do see, which is basically comprises of a micro segment. So in fact, in our own data set for the micro business that we did, we tried last year, women comprises more than 50% of that particular segment itself. So then micro segment is always perceived as high risk segment. So this is where information asymmetry exists when it comes to banks, like what was mentioned. It's typical 5Cs assessment, the credit repayment, the character, documentation, cash flow existence. So these are information that normal traditional banks focus on. But within the financial services sector, I do see it's an evolutionary phase, I would say, because you have banks, traditional banks, you also have digital banks, you also have other types of financiers, such as peer-to-peer, equity crowdfunding. You also have startups, technology companies also working in finance. So I think what CGC felt that, it's a different DNA altogether. When you operate in a digital way, all partners need to collaborate. The collaboration is key. Unlike the traditional ways, I do things on my own, so then you sort of have an insight of that one particular problem statement. But for us at CGC Digital, I think CGC understood that, for us to move to that space, it has to be a different setup altogether, not to be entrenched or restricted or fixated to a certain extent within the current guarantee products and services, constricted within the legacy system, processes, and bureaucracy. So basically, because when you talk about digital, it's about pivoting, innovating. So you need fast, So hence, sometimes to morph into a different, from a ship, you go into a smaller speedboat, it's easier to maneuver things around. So naturally, for me being in that technology space, I also see the different sides of how you can actually leverage on technology to innovate guarantee. Because the way I see guarantee, this is where the opportunity resides for women to gain access to financing in that micro segment, because digital gives that avenue for outreach. Without the typical setup of a branch, women can log in anytime. But then the question now is about collaboration, putting in partners, solving different parts of the problem within an ecosystem. Like for the banks, they need to have other types of data sets of which other types of financial institutions, can provide. But what do they lack? They lack cost of funds, because they need to run and provide that access to financing through bigger outfit, right? Then you also have smaller startup, which provides, beautiful solutions. I think we were discussing last night, in fact, after the dinner, about solutions, So I've seen solutions that is targeted, very women-centric targeted, in terms of how they put women on board, from startup right up to the different life cycles of business, how to scale. So those are the things that I see guarantee can innovate together with the different partner ecosystem to solve the problem, towards the greater good. And of course, for us at CGC, we are agnostic. So we work with banks. We also work with other types of financiers. But of course, that is an area that we navigate. It's a learning process as well for me, because credit is credit, in a very traditional sense. But somebody got to make that move, So this is where I do see, throughout, I've only basically started this role last year itself. So within the digital space, I see MAVCAP doing wonderful things. I see MDEC doing wonderful things. I see even banks at the different life stages of digital journey and maturity to that level. I do see opportunities in very, very different parts of the life cycle, to support women as well as micro overall. So that's how I see myself contributing as I navigate my own journey as the CEO of CGC Digital. Yeah.
Very nice. All right. And I think that's why we have this conversation, because we are actually seeing parts of the value chain and there are gaps to be closed. And one of my questions for the ladies, which will come much later, will be how can they collaborate better? But I'm going to go to Daphne. So Daphne, actually in the Dedoco model, the audience doesn't know what exactly does Dedoco do. All right, so how do you close some of the gap? And earlier, Winnie mentioned that she's not doing anything disruptive, and neither are you. You're actually doing something transformative. Can you kind of share with us what is the Dedoco solution, and why is it your biggest clients are actually in the finance sector?
Yeah, so for Dedoco, we actually stand for Decentralized Document Connector. So from the decentralized component is because we leverage on blockchain technology as well as PKI cryptography in terms of securing data privacy and compliance. So a lot of our go-to-market strategy now ends up being for companies in the high trust sectors, which is public sector as well as banks and financial services. Yeah, so actually, I was really enjoying myself listening, to all these wonderful ladies on the panel today. And I have to say that, a lot of these initiatives done at the national level really requires a lot of coordinated kind of play at the ground level as well. Similarly, with the same concept of simplifying and being collaborative, our philosophy towards technology is to make it accessible. Making it accessible, like I always give the analogy that, I'm a business student. I'm not like a computer engineer. I'm not, coding trained, right? Because that's always a question asked to me when I run a tech company. And my philosophy is really to make technology simple. It also means that when we want to deliver a solution to a company, they must be able to use 90% of the system, right? And not just, pay 100%, but only can use 10% of it, which is not uncommon. So I think making technology accessible, whether it's to companies, big companies or SMEs, I think is very, very vital in terms of sustainability. Yeah, so that's my view.
Okay, and hold on. Dedoco was set up in 2020, yet currently you have offices and teams in US, Australia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and Vietnam. How do you scale that fast?
Yeah, so it could come from the word being decentralized. But I think we were born out of COVID, so it was more of a necessity when we first started. I was just sharing with some of the participants at lunch that now I'm mandating everyone to come back to work for better collaboration. We also had the opportunity to pitch for funding. So, we were able to get a seed investment from Vertex Ventures, which is Temasek related in Singapore. So that really helped for us, really helped me to focus a lot on the go-to-market, with that first set of funding that we had. So, yeah.
So she didn't really tell you everything, but that's fine. But one thing that I loved about what Vertex did was Vertex invested in them. And the first thing Vertex did was go to all their portfolio companies and say, from now on, you must use Dedoco solutions. And I think that's one thing that women can do. So, we can allow all those people in our community, if you have a new idea, a new solution, why don't you tell everyone in the community about it and say, can you try this out? Adopt this particular idea or solution, because it builds better if more people are using it. So it brings down the cost and the innovation cost, and it allows for accessibility. So we always tell people, right, we have this great recipe, we have this great product. Why are we not sharing great financial solutions as well? last but not least, Jimling. Yeah, and I know a lot of people say it's a traditional banking and no changing, is traditional investment banking changing. And how has Hong Leong, investment bank, been engaging the women's sector and the SME sector differently?
I think, we have heard so much from the speakers really. I don't think I want to repeat in a sense that, I think the summary of all the speakers here today tells us that actually the channels are all available. You have all kinds of capital in terms of banking facilities, in terms of startup capital. So there's not a shortage of capital. And I think at Hong Leong Investment Bank, we are not different. I think we are offering our advisors and anyone that comes above us and said, they want to look at starting a business or they want to access capital. We are always here because investment bank has always been in that same role. And I don't think we're going to change that much. We are capital facilitators. So from that perspective, I think really the message that I have for women out there is that, the products are there, the services are there. Just make use of it, get to it. I think a lot of times, we don't see a lot of women, like the statistics this morning we heard, very little participation in terms of women entrepreneurship. Why is that so? I mean, because you hear from all these ladies here, they're all ready to fund you. There are plenty of capital out there. It's not that it's only accessible to men, but women, we must do our own part as well. I think that's where this morning some of the speakers were saying that, we talk about confidence, we talk about all these things. I think that's very relevant, right? For people who really sit out there and say, there's nothing available for us women, that's not true. Right? I have a whole table of ladies sitting there in my bank. They're all leaders in their own divisions. They work very hard. They got there, not because they are women. So we want to be out there for ourselves. And I think the message that really from an investment banking standpoint is that we are all ready to help, whether you're a guy or women. I think that's really not the difference. But I think today when we are championing women, I think we are really trying to push women out there to realize their potential, to know what they can access. Like I think a lot of the issues that we talk about really is that women do not know that they can get access to capital. And a lot of us, maybe from my own experience, I can share that, we are all very conservative people, always think very hard whether to borrow money, not to borrow money, how we're going to pay it back. And, always too much worry about our finances, our family, our children. But I think at the end of the day, women should start to think a little bit more for ourselves, that we can actually go out there and be equal with the guys. And doesn't mean we are more careful, we can't borrow money, we can't get access to capital. And these ladies here are all telling you that there are plenty of products, services, and they are, we are all pushing out here to help all of you. And I think that's the message that we want to drive home to all the women entrepreneurs out there, that, there are ability to get financing, they are accessible to capital, they're accessible to shareholders. Just don't be shy and try, and I think in life, that's what we all hope to get. You don't try, you don't know, but you try, you definitely will find that there are sweet spots out there for all of us, and nothing comes easy, but I'm sure we can all do it. And I think that's the only message I want to share beyond all the ladies have really told you so much about what's available in the market. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So, thank you. The conversation was not just about access to capital. So I'm going to do one round before I open to the floor. We are never satisfied. Noor mentioned that we need 100% before we go out. So I'm going to ask all of you, in no particular order, just jump in. If everything has been done, so much has been done, yet why are we still having this conversation? All right? What are the challenges? What are the barriers that could not be broken? And, if you have your wish list, what are some of the things that you hope that we can achieve at the end of this whole summit?
Well, since I've been talking about this woman thingy, like during so the conversation is always about us having an imposter syndrome. So, I mean, sometimes, sometimes when you wear clothes, and you just have to cantik tak? That's actually validation. We keep on looking for validation. Why? We are smart, we are pretty, we are you can do catwalk. So it's imposter syndrome. I mean, it happened to me too. Like, like sometimes it's just like, my tudung is a bit singit or stuff like that. So I guess this is where we need the conversation, we need the community. I'm just blessed at having, very strong, supportive women around me. You can conquer the world having a great support. I think that's first. You have to have a support, positive support, anti-joya, of course, but you need a very strong woman support and man ally. You can work with them, but the sisters, your friends, your mother, your aunties, you need them. You really need them.
Very good. So beyond capital, we need the confidence boosting that comes from the support factor. Any one of you? Where's the gap? What else is missing?
I was telling Regina at lunch that I watched this movie called Hunger on Netflix. That's the key word today, hunger. I don't know whether any one of you watched that movie. It's about this women striving to be the chef and, have to go all the way out. And I think today, that little phrase came back very strong to me. Women, we out there has to feel hungry as well. And that's when you start to chase, you start to pursue, and you start to tell yourself that, nothing is impossible. And I think that's what all of us has to strive to be, because the minute we start to feel full, too much on our plate, we start to take less risks, we don't go out there and reach our potential. And I think that's where I think we should all strive to be, aside from the validation. And I think that's an excellent piece. And then, of course, from our perspective, hunger, and then your mentorship, don't underestimate that. I think that helps a lot in terms of getting validation, getting a sense of direction, who we want to be and what we aspire to be. We can't be good in everything, but we surely can aspire to be something. Yeah.
So Jasmine, if you talk about hunger, the state that Myanmar is in, I'm sure you've got some great stories about women who actually go beyond.
Yes, definitely. I kind of agree, very much agree to what she has mentioned. The hunger and also being able to, I was just mentioning just the word grit, the grit for being, having in mind that the hunger to succeed and not afraid of failing. You may fail one time. It's always important to get up. It's more important. It's not too afraid to fail. So we always tell the women in entrepreneurs in Myanmar that if you have something in mind and if you think your business is you really want to, you gotta step up. You gotta come up, and you have to be able to hunger and finding, even if be finance, be technologies or what you need. You must be able to come up and explore. Or why we have such kind of sessions that to answer, we are telling you that what we have, but it's to you that you come and step forward, be hunger for it and come and take it. And we always encourage them again. Failure is, one-time failure is not a problem or not an issue. How you will have to, you need to be very well communicated and openness about how you wanted to, how to save this failure and you get up again. This is more important to especially to the woman, because women, I think our Asians are very much not outspoken. You'll be, especially maybe in our countries, we are very conservative. Women are not very, very outspoken, and so usually is for you to mention that what you want is being shy, you will not be able to say. So that is the barriers and breakthrough that we have to do. And just when you have a hunger and when you want to strive to achieve, then you will be able to forward. So that was the message that we are giving them. We are giving that hand that just bring forward, and we will be able to facilitate you to where you want to go.
Yeah, but Yushida, and I'm coming to you. Yeah. So Justin, you see, when you set up the credit governance bureau, the digital part was very important, but you need a lot of partners on the console. What are some of these partners that you really need?
Okay, so again, first and foremost, going back to the women and micro enterprise. I mean, that's in general, where the composition of women business, it's very much, even in our data set, it's also look like a women is into that kind of business that's very peculiar to their personality, like baking, So this kind of business is also very much risky when it comes to like COVID and all that, so this is where I think in building a business entrepreneurship, grit is what it takes it's important to survive the different cycles and different setbacks. So in fact, when COVID comes in, I think this is where an outfit like credit guarantee plays its role. In fact, during that COVID period, we actually approved more than 2 billion worth of loan in terms of guarantee that we backed. So this is where
Is
we
there a
cushion.
maximum amount of the loans that they can get?
Yes, definitely. I think for CGC, with regards to direct financing, we see that the average for women is about 70,000. So it's really small loan. In corporate, it will be said as a personal loan to a certain extent, right? So in a digital space, I think again back to the question of micro enterprises and the information asymmetry. So this is where financial literacy is important. Partnering with capacity building partners who can provide the kind of products and services, tools in a technology space, so that women understands, when it comes to starting up business, please get your registration done with the SSM, because without that, it's quite difficult for you to move to a true financial ecosystem. So then you talk about having a proper accounting system. Then you talk about proper stock keeping. So these are all new data sets that, financial institutions would love to have insights, to gain insights into what are the peculiarities of women business and traits of women-run, women-led business. So capacity building is one, definitely from financiers, traditional banks, other types of financiers, because they have different risk appetite. So we want to test and innovate with the different partners depending on what their appetite is. I do see guarantee as a utility to a certain extent, because I think currently CGC mainly guarantee is provided through the banks. So the banks source for the SMEs, whereas us at digital, it would be wonderful. I think my vision is to see utility to be used as a guarantee, such that the micro and small will be able to take that guarantee with our preferred financial institutions with the right persona, of course, but then we need to build that data. So this is where the innovation part come in. We have to partner with women types of entrepreneur, women NGOs, that support womenpreneurs. So we look at the different life cycle, collect the data, then have proper insights of the data before we can even, migrate them over to proper financial ecosystem. So that's how I see it. Capacity building is important. Financial institutions, definitely in a various way, so that's how I view it.
Very nice. And for Daphne, earlier, right at the beginning, Noor was saying that only 1% of women startups, all right, do get their funding. Yeah, so I'm going to put it the other way around. When you pitch for your funding for Dedoco, was there a different style, whether you pitch to women-funded companies or male-funded companies? Do you see any difference? Or do you have to adopt a different approach?
Okay, so maybe I'll share a bit of my personal opinion and personal experience. I still remember, I came from a corporate banking background. I'm not from investment banking background. So I did not have any experience in term sheets and pitching. I actually had a mental block when it came to fundraising. And I still remember coming up with the term sheet was so hard because I did not have a mentor. Okay, so there's two things maybe I will want to share, that the idea of mentorship, like what Jingling mentioned, is so important. For example, even having someone like a Prof. Annie Ko, and also filling the gap in terms of, I think your question just now was what's the gap that needs to be filled, is also to pay it forward. Recently, because of my experience, I actually happened to share with, female entrepreneurs. Some are co-founders, some are not, in terms of, and just being their friend, not really like kind of mentoring them in their business, but really kind of listening to them, listening to their struggles and listening to their, what do you call, like, uncertainties in terms of making certain decisions. And then I realized they sounded like myself like 4 years ago. So I think that the support network, in terms of bridging the gap is so important, and probably cannot be underestimated. I think that's one. And then to your question about the actual pitch, but that's more personal for me. So I had a mental block, but I think it's something that I myself needed to overcome myself. So I just needed to just do a lot of it, and just kind of tell myself that, okay, I need to have 24 no's to get to the 25th yes. So then I would just keep wanting to get the no finish, right? So then I can don't waste my time because I need to get to the actual one, right? So kind of having different kind of mindset really helps. Talking to yourself helps sometimes. Yeah, so I think that was my experience. Not much difference in terms of pitching, but I do echo Noor's observation, maybe because she also came from that experience, which there could be some unconscious bias in terms of funding female entrepreneurs. Not sure what these are unless, we really talk to those people who are in charge of the biasness, but there should be and there could be. For example, when I first started, every time there's a Q&A, the only question that they ask me is, did I have a engineering degree? Yeah, I don't really know why that's relevant, because if you look at the the big tech companies, they are run by women, the CEOs are run by women, but yeah, and then I got used to it, right? So then coming out with my own answers, I work like a guy, but not many guys can work like me, that kind of thing. Yeah, so I think it takes a lot for women entrepreneurs to kind of overcome all this. Speaking to mentors really helps. Yeah, so I think great.
Good. Thank you very much. Okay. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 mics. And I know Jim Ling just now pointed to that table. All right, so table there, start first with a question. Yeah, you will cheer. Yeah, very good. This is called cold calling. Lady in green, thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Okay, I just want to share something about, this is all about women, and I'm one who has been always a lot of aspiration to grow the women businesses, regardless whether you are entrepreneur or whether you are in financial. I've been in the asset management business for 35 over years and always been in the operations department. This last 3 years, we were running the asset management for conventional, and I was asked by the group to apply for an Islamic asset management license, and with the motivation from Ms. Lee, we applied. The first thing that the SC asked me was, why should we give you the license when we have 20 over Islamic asset management? But to me, it's not the number. To me is that I can prove to you I can be the same or better than the existing CEOs of Islamic asset management, right? Secondly is, being the first female CEO in Islamic asset management, starting it from scratch, not a baton pass to me, and employing men who are competent fund managers to work with me, that's how it should be run. I think sometimes I agree with the females on the platform. We women seems to be overthinking of the negativity. And many times I told my colleagues, don't overthink. When you have checked your compliance, your legal, your operation, go for it. Because any mistake that you made is something that you learn to overcome in your business. For example, when we submit RFP to government-linked company, it's always been an intention that we, being fairly new in the industry, 3 years only being licensed, having small AUM, but I do compete. The purpose is to tell the GLC or to tell the client, I'm here. I may not win this business, but next year you remember me. That's all.
Very nice. Okay. And how has your performance been so far? Very well, yeah. Correct. No baggage. Start from fresh.
I only
Right.
need 10 of these INIs, then I'm a home run already.
Very good. Yes, we have a question from here. Thank you. Who is that? Regina.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Excellent panel discussion. Since I've got such a bunch of experts here, I would actually like to ask, because we're talking about financing, right? So what are the pitfalls that entrepreneur that's like me at an early stage, what are the pitfalls that I need to be aware of so that I can definitely get funding from you guys? Thank you.
Good one. All right. So, what can she consciously think about if she was to get funding, whether it's from MAVCAP, from you, or from the investment banks, or from a corporate banker, or even a startup? All right. What are not to do? Yeah. Any one of you.
I'm gonna take that because you're a startup. So we actually have a lot of investors company who has been, to Y Combinator. Y Combinator is like one of the accelerator, like biggest in Silicon Valley. So I always ask them, right, when they actually went or they actually went for that accelerator program. It's very difficult to actually get into the accelerator program. There's only two things that I think it's very, very real, right? You can say it's from textbook, but they will put you there for 3 months at Y Combinator. They will not allow you to raise fund. They will not to talk about anything else apart from two things. One is your product. So you have to make sure your product is perfect. And secondly is your market. Two things. So for startups, or for us VC, okay, I understand the reason like when they come to VC and then there's unconscious bias because like it's a long run. We invest up to 5 to 10 years. So if, okay, like a woman founder, you also like, are you gonna get married? Are you gonna have baby? Or so what's gonna happen to the business? I mean, as an investor, it's also a concern. I mean, as much as I don't like to hear that, but if you're gonna put money, just like, are you gonna get married soon? This is something that we need to talk about, the conversation. But if you say the pitfall, put aside the pitfall. But if you're a startup, these two things, or SME or any other businesses, two things, product and the market first. Then only you go out there and raise fund. And to raise fund, you can fail 50 times, you can fail 60 times. Yeah.
So I'm going to summarize it more as deep knowledge of what you are producing, deep knowledge of the service proposition, and then be very honest about how you are going to grow the market as you go along. So that deep thinking and knowing where you are going. All right. So not so much pitfall, but what to concentrate on. Anybody has pitfall?
Maybe I can add a bit to what Noor has said. I think Regina is probably looking at it. I think, in every startup, banks, unfortunately, I know why I'm one of the culprits of it, that bankers are trained to only look at risk management, right? So the problem, when you come into a bank always don't look at what the business can achieve, but what are the risks in that business, unfortunately. And that's where the gap is, because every time there's a startup, the risk is higher. And then from that perspective, always, people always complain the accessibility of capital is not there. But I guess today, there's always a new niche that's being created. Banks are also looking at that space. And of course, I think today, we add a little bit more spice to it. We talk about impact investing, and that's make it even more meaningful because, financial institutions across the globe are all looking at impact investing, and that really helped to drive startups. People who really look at creating impacts to our economy, and that actually has a big win for the banks, really, as compared to the traditional models of looking at risk management. Because what to do, we are all trained every day. We have new risk policies coming up. We talk about climate risk now. Everything is the word big risk. So today, bankers, unfortunately, have been too much pushed towards managing risk instead of really looking at the business potential of it. And sometimes they lose sight, in the business part rather than just every day analyzing risk. And so a lot of things doesn't get funded. But I think today, I think the big message out there is if we can look at that angle as well, the opportunities are a lot more plenty because investors globally are shifting also towards impact investing, really. Yeah.
Very good. So see, nobody really think about the negative side. All right, the product, the service, the go-to-market, and build impact. Come on, what other shortfalls? Yes, Irina.
Basically, I spoke a lot about the CGC digital and the micro and small, but I also understand within the digital space, technology startup is something that is currently very fresh and also interesting. So that is definitely the space that I also see where CGC can play its part. So certainly within the current traditional guarantee, there are limitations in terms of how we support this space. But I have seen in other market segments, such as in Korea, whereby credit guarantee go into that space, it's called equity guarantee. So again, this is where, again, for me, guarantee in its current traditional form needs to morph into something that is over and above just the current traditional way of looking at it. Because again, I would say guarantee is a form of credit supplementation product. So at the bigger scale of things, there's capacity building, there's also the equity markets. So this is where guarantee need to also innovate to remain relevant, because again, when information asymmetry is somewhat more, the gap is lesser. So then where the guarantee, how then do you make guarantee to remain relevant to sectors that you have migrated them over to the actual financial ecosystem? So this is where, for us, the SDGC, it's very important for us to look at new segments, new sectors, new opportunities in terms of how we can serve financing in a different way, by using guarantee again as a credit supplementation, as part of credit supplementation product, as well as the utility to the lower side of the graph in the segment of micro and small.
Jasmine and Daphne, what are some of the pitfalls, the no-nos that you should not do?
I think there's only, for me, is only maybe two things, since the rest is already highlighted. Before you go for financing, you need to know what is your needs. And not just because financing is available, you don't go after that. You have to first analyze and see, do you really need the funds, and what are the funds needed for? So only to serve that purpose, you get the financing. Otherwise, you will end up overborrowing. Overborrowing will give you a burden of cash flow. So, and for that, and also for bank, we look at the risk and all that, but also I think simply the cash flow is also very important. So when you talk about cash flow, corporate, we got a lot of huge complicated cash flow. For the startup or for enterprise, you do not need to think much about very mathematical of the cash flow, or technically, the very high complicated, comprehensive one. You just need to remember or take off what are your monthly or inflow minus outflow, as long as it is a bit of positive. And that positive, when you are going to borrow a finance, you see the interest that you are going to pay, incur for monthly or quarterly, that leftover balance is sufficient enough or not, then you go for it. So that is all very important. And you can otherwise you will end up burden, and that is also you give you a financial stress. Thank you.
Daphne, pitfalls, no-nos that you should keep in mind.
No, I think the most important is we're also all learning in this current climate is that if you are looking at the ventures route, the model is changing. So have to be a bit more aware in terms of how the model is going to work in terms of looking for profitability versus top line. Previously in the previous years, during the good years of fundraising, it's all about top line. And high customer acquisition costs can actually be accepted in favor of getting market share, so-called. But I think that the space is kind of changing now, so I think just need to be aware of that. Yeah.
Yeah, the VC model is also changing. Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of us could come together and do sharing. I actually see a master class needed, all right, through the life of a company, where actually you cannot have one size fits all, and your needs and your, how the market is changing have to be adjusted. So Regina, time for another class. We have another question here. Yes, go ahead.
A question and a sharing also, yeah. My name is Daphne Noor Aziza, okay, and I have a question here. I'm talking on behalf also for my organization called the International Women Entrepreneur of Malaysia, right? And here, question one is, the session for women management scaling new height is a very interesting, and all the pointers there are there. So I just like to recall during the COVID, the 3 years, almost 3 years of the COVID period, that was really a tough time, but of course, a lot of our women do a lot of thinking, how to think differently. No, I mean, away from the normal what you're doing, and we have to accept the fact, fine. Now, after this COVID, I would like to ask, it's not going to be simple. Most of the women, I think about 80-90% of them, they are from the medium to the micro business people. They come to a crossroad, where some of them are single parent, some of them are not as lucky as some who have a lot of, property inheritance and things like that, and they lost their business, and they come to a point that they're there. And I'm posing these questions to all the finance and the banking people in front of their ladies, beautiful ladies there on the stage. None of them got a help, okay? Banking change. Why can't they change and giving an opportunity back to these people? And they are all great potential. They are the one that really bring the economy. They are the one who really strive so hard. As for me, an example, I don't talk about others. For me, I'm a trained coach. I'm a trained, qualified chef, and for that matter. During the COVID, it really hit me to think differently. And I think I'm a better person after the COVID, I took it on very positive note. Now, I'm posing this question, why does the bank cannot even want to help these people? And this is the sad part. And this is the real. And the real thing always hurt. It always hurt because we don't want anymore to sweep things under the carpet anymore. All the dust has to be absorbed by a strong vacuum. All right? A strong vacuum that really pull all the dirt out from the carpet. Now, that is my one question. How can anyone from the Hong Leong, Maybank, or whatever there, all right? Now, they have all the expertise. You must remember the voting power of this country, majority, is hit more than a man. So why these people are being rejected? And I can name a few of them. You reach to a point that you have to give up because you don't have any more money. What they give is peanut, 5,000, 10,000. What can you do with 5,000, 10,000? All right, that's number one question.
Yeah. So I'm watching my clock. I'm given 3 minutes.
Yeah, number two. I must say this.
Okay,
all
right.
right.
So
number two, okay?
Yes.
This is real happening. Getting calls from SME loan, okay? This lady, well, quietly, she has really think and make her product known. And soon she's going to be in the Battersea project, all right? Now she needs the fund. But when the bank heard that she's a senior citizen, so sorry, the bank rejected. So if we can change, why can't the bank change? That's my question. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you very much. Okay, two very, okay, I'm not going to say that it's not important. Two very important questions, but I don't think my panel, all right, will be in a position to answer it. All right, but Noor would like to attempt. All right, good.
Because I have this kind of question all the time, so I thought I can actually help to answer. I've actually read the Budget Madani, the latest one, 85 pages, line by line. Okay, so there's actually a particular section. I know people are gonna say like, oh, it's susah, it's so hard to get and stuff like that, but you need to spend a little bit more. Tekun, not much, but there's there. There's a lot of money in Tekun. Mara, another one. Yeah. So you just have to go and reach out to them. Sometimes they just don't come out. Like for example, SME Bank, I was actually walking and I realized they actually provide grant up to 15,000 ringgit. I mean, for MSME. So there's actually there. I also wish that, people will come out and tell the public rather than having the public going there as well. But if they are entrepreneurs, they will find. So this is where the information is actually everywhere in Malaysia. It's there. But where do you find the information? So I know Tekun, I know Mara, I know MDEC is giving a lot of grant.
After this session, you must quickly get to know. All right. And
Yes,
then ask her.
happy to assist and lead to any of the person in charge that we can actually work together. But there's a lot of money out there. We receive all this kind of question. It's just that we need to reach out to them. Given the fact that their eyes and the ears of the government, they should reach out to the rakyat. That should be the other way around. I mean, I might lose my job after this, but yeah.
No, I could tell the passion. So to round up, I'm going to ask each of you to give us one line or one statement, all right, to encourage the women in the audience as far as having access to finance and inclusion go.
I think maybe just to supplement what Noor has said, I think there's a lot of grievances because of COVID, but really, when problems happen, it's not just about women, it's all businesses. But I think, please understand that the last thing the bank wants to do is really to close businesses. I mean, really, that's not the bank's business model to close business, right? But the bank has to look at what is the potential by helping this company, whether it can overcome where they are right now. So always think of the possibilities. Don't always think that the business has to end. A lot of people always say it's either I get funding or it has to end. But in business, we always say there's also a disposal mode. There's also a merger mode. A lot of people sit in their chairs and say, I'm just here where I am. Don't think of the options, don't think of the solutions. Sometimes maybe merger are the best form of efficiency. So don't always think of it that's at the end of the road. And always remember, banks are not there to close people's business, because seriously, that's not the case, right? Now then, the last parting message that I really want all of us to really understand today is that, yes, what is the difference? Like I always ask people, what is the difference between a cook and a chef? Right? It's quite a simple question, but someone asked me that. I was like looking at him and said, what's the difference? He said, a cook can cook, but a chef has to cook it within a certain time. If you make a meal in 4 months or 4 hours, you are not a chef. So the key about business is the same thing, right? We can all do something, but we have to make it worthwhile for our stakeholders, our investors, our bankers. So from that perspective, whether it is a man or a woman championing a business, always understand that even I can cook, but I can never go into business if I can't be a chef. Right? We need to be efficient. We need to talk about current trends, relevance. That's why we talk about digitalization. We talk about new economy. We talk about everything else to make us stay in line. So that's where I always tell people that's the difference. So don't be a cook, be a chef.
Thank you very much, Yuling. Daphne, your parting word or sentence?
So I'm very fortunate to have mentors from both male and females, especially males, because I'm in the tech space. I think what I want to do more, and I think might be quite important, is for females. I know it sounds very cliche, but I truly believe in it. Recently, females really should. We have a lot of opportunities to work more with each other, especially as we start growing into positions of authority. We could make decisions to collaborate with each other. And I think that is what I'm most looking forward to. Yeah.
Thank you, Daphne. Yushida.
Yes, again, for me, women is resilient. So certainly entrepreneurship is something that women can be successful in. So for me at CGC Digital, looking at the different women around here representing many types of outfits, do come together and let's collaborate. And again, like I mentioned, we solve the problem together because each one of us have different challenges and each one of us have different solutions. So the beauty of digital is basically in the collaboration in the digital means. Thank you.
No?
I understand the pain. It took me and my sister 4 years to raise fund to buy a building, and we have been in industry for 15 years. So it's painful. It's very painful. 4 years. You have to climb down and up. But so don't give up. Reach out and ask for help. Fine, you get rejected, but keep on asking. You'll get there. You own the building.
Bravo. And Jasmine.
For me, I love the quote of this one of the professor called that women are born artists on one way or another. So we just need to continue to be an artist of being empathy, artist of being able to have a strong grit or doing things, and because women, we always have a family, we always have various especially when we are doing leadership, you struggle around families and also your works and all that. But I think being a born artist, we can always shape and draw or where we want to go with the strong grit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, can we put our hands together? Wonderful panel, and I'm sure they have shared nuggets of their wisdom and experience and for their honesty. So I'm going to pass the mic over to our MC. Thank you.